Hey everybody, Corey here coming at you with a quick little efficiency tip in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. If you're a relatively new player, this is probably something that is going to really help you. If you're an older player, I hope you would have picked up on this by now, but could be good for everyone. So I was thinking about this on my way to Galactic Legend Leia Organa. And I've just got a prime example. As I usually do when these videos come along, I'm inspired by something that's happening right now. So we can see all the things that I have to work on or that I've already got done for Galactic Legend Leia Organa, right? So I'm not going to read them all off to you, but I'm going to talk about the differences between some of them. And this isn't specific to Leia. This is for any account, and it's gonna feed into what I have to say at the end of this. So if you look at what I have left to complete, I have Rex, I have Nisa, Scout Trooper, R2-D2, Han, Leia, Drogon, Luke, Boosh, 3PO, Chewie, and Lobot, right? Okay, so what order do I want to complete these in? Who cares, right? Just start getting Leia done. No, not who cares. Let's think about this, right? So what you might not know based on my current roster, because you don't know my entire roster, is what upgrades am I actually going to benefit from? And that sounds like common sense because you need them all for Leia. But when you're going about this, when you're going towards any goal, think about what is going to benefit your roster the most, the soonest, right? Again, sounds like common sense, but what am I talking about here? Well, let's look at my options that I have on my way to the final requirements that I need for Leia, right? A lot of these I already have at relics, I just don't have them at the relics that I need, right? So R2-D2 is a good example. I need R2-D2 at relic 8. Well, he's at relic 7 right now, and the sad reality is I don't use R2-D2 right now. And so I could go take R2-D2 to relic 8, but I would be spending materials on him to get him to relic 8 so that he can just continue rotting in the back of my roster because I don't use him right now. Same thing kind of goes with Captain Han, Rebel Officer Leia Organa, right? So that's the bottom tier of consideration. It's characters that you need to upgrade that you're not even gonna use after you upgrade them. Now, let's not get confused. R2 does go on the Leia team, but because you don't have her until the end, you don't really need R2 until the end, right? Let's go down the list. Think of, we'll call this the second tier. This is the second most important. Think of something like CLS, okay? My CLS is Relic 5. If you don't know, CLS is an absolutely wildly strong character. His team is wildly strong. He's very good. Oh, by the way, he shares stats with his team based on, it's a unique mechanic that happens with this team specifically. But what that means is CLS is really going to benefit from more relics, more upgrades, right? And so he gets placed in the second tier. And this second tier is things that I could upgrade that do benefit my current roster, right? Obviously, there's going to be benefits to CLS. There's going to be benefits to 3PO and Chewie because 3PO and Chewie is also on the CLS team. So that's a consideration, right? Teams I'm actually using, they're not going to change too much, but they're going to get upgraded, right? And that's the CLS team. Nothing is getting added to it necessarily. It's just becoming stronger. And then the first tier that you should absolutely consider and should prioritize over all the other tiers is represented by, for me, Princess Nisa. Princess Nisa is the first character out of all these requirements that I'm going out of my way to gear up first. Why? Is it because Princess Nisa is amazing in and of herself? Not necessarily. But what Princess Nisa does is she completely transforms your Ewok team. Now, Ewoks are not an endgame team, right? They're not the greatest team on the planet. But Nisa is the only requirement left that I don't have complete that completely transforms a team, right? And so, yes, Ewoks aren't the most amazing thing in the world, but as someone who's approaching 7 million GP, this is extremely useful for my roster. I actually put Ewoks on defense because I'm in Kyber, and my roster isn't that wide, and the reality is I have to put things on defense, whether they're optimal or not. And if I'm going to have Ewoks on defense, or if I'm going to use Ewoks in any capacity whatsoever, Nissa is a huge upgrade to that team. And so, if I'm looking at all the requirements I have that I need to get, I'm going to prioritize them in what order? So the lowest order, again, is something like Lobot, right? I'm just not going to use him. I'm not going to use him after I get him. I'm not going to use him on the way to Leia. I'm not going to use him after Leia. Lobot is bottom tier, right? Characters that you're not going to use, characters that you don't use, they're just a requirement for whatever goal you're pursuing. Tier 2 is something like CLS, which is a character that's going to help an existing team, but not necessarily transform it, right? He's on a team that I actively use. He's already there. Upgrading him further doesn't fundamentally change anything other than it just makes him stronger. So the team kind of becomes stronger. And then tier 1, what you should focus on first and foremost are characters like Princess Nissa, who completely transform the team that they're going on, and you're going to use them immediately. As soon as I take Nissa to Relics, she's going straight on my Ewoks team, and that team immediately becomes better anywhere that I'm using it, right? So, sounds like common sense, but I'm going to leave you with one more kind of bonus tip that's kind of in the same vein, and I do have another example for this. So, I was going for Profundity recently, and Profundity has a couple of Rogue One requirements, right? Let's go filter on Rogue One, and this is a great example. So when I decided to start going for Profundity, I was in the 3v3 season. And so, just like I just showed you with Leia, you can upgrade anyone in any order you want to get closer to your goal. However, what I would recommend, whether you're in a 5v5 season or a 3v3 season, whatever it may be, consider upgrading the characters that you're going to use first and that are going to be most beneficial. And the 4 that we're looking at Relics here are a prime example of this. These are 4 characters that I need at Relics for Profundity. I could have gone about them in any order that I wanted, but the reality is the core team in 3v3, if you don't have K2SO, is going to be Radis, Cassian, and Jyn, right? And so, if I'm on my way to upgrading this team, what I would do is not just randomly upgrade Bistan first, because you're going to take Bistan to Relics, and if someone like Jyn, who's critical to the team, is just sitting at Gear 8 or whatever, not Relics, not the Relics she needs to be, well, now you've got a suboptimal team. You've got Radis, Cassian, and Bistan. And why? It's just a worse version of the team. If you know you're going to be working towards a goal or a team anyways, start building out the team in the most important order of that team. So I did Radis first, Jyn second, Cassian third, and Bistan fourth. Bistan fourth doesn't matter because I'm not going to use Bistan on that team in 3v3. And so, in the middle of a 3v3 season, I got to build out a team that I didn't have prior to going into that 3v3 season. I got Radis, Cassian, and Jyn, and dead in the middle of a 3v3 season, I got a whole new team that was actually useful. I'm not saying the team couldn't be useful at all without, Cassian, for example. You definitely need Jyn. But, if you understand how that team works, you need Radis, you need Jyn. Could I have gone Bistan instead of Cassian? Kind of, but it would have just clearly been suboptimal. So, when you're thinking about the next team that you're going to build, think about, especially going into a 3v3 season, what 3 members of that team are necessary for the requirements to achieve that goal. Because the sooner you build them, the sooner you get another legitimate team for whether it's ships or whether it's ground squads, right? Build the most important parts first so you can start using them ASAP, and they're going to start bringing you benefits ASAP. And the same thing goes, even if you're in 5v5, it might not be optimal, but guess what? The core members of this team are Radis, Cassian, and Jyn. Even if I'm going into 5v5, build those 3 first because they're the most useful ones. And even if you have to use a half-ass thrown together team, you've got the core members of the team ready while you're still working on the other requirements. So guys, I hope you found this useful. I hope you found it helpful. Think through your farms. Get the important things first. Again, it sounds like common sense, but don't underestimate the importance of getting the best characters first and doing it in a logical way, because just like everything else in this game, it's a snowball. I am getting more resources from building Radis, Cassian, and Jin first because I start to use them in GAC. I now have a full team in GAC 3v3. That could have very well been the difference between winning and losing a GAC, which means by focusing on them first, they have now gotten me access to more resources, which will help me work on the characters that I quite frankly don't care about at all, which is, something like Biston. So it's very much the case that focusing on the core members of the team gets me more resources sooner and helps me finish whatever goal I'm working on. All right. I hope you enjoyed this. I'll see you all next time.